Live. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today I have Christina Padden. I'm doing this from my desktop for the first time, so it's telling me when I'm in the view and when I'm not. So, Christina, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here. We're going to be talking about exercise tonight. So, we're going to go through all the things, but first, Christina, I'll have you introduce yourself. Tell us what you do for work, what you do for fun, and what decade of life you're in.
All right. Hi, everybody. And thank you, Emily, for having me. I'm super excited to be here. So, I'm a family nurse practitioner. I have been in medicine for about 20 years. I graduated in 2005 with my RN and practiced as a nurse until 2018 when I got my master's in the sciences, and became an FNP. I have decided throughout my career I was seeing a common theme of chronic diseases and obesity. It seemed like everyone was struggling with weight, and the majority of my patients had high cholesterol, high blood pressure, diabetes. And it seemed like the system was, including myself as a provider, that we were throwing band-aids on a hemorrhaging problem. When I was in the role, lucky enough to be in a role where I could just focus on those factors in itself and how to reduce the rates of those diseases without so much medication, the results were amazing. Patients were changing their entire lives. And it wasn't just the patient, it was the family. Their children were changing their lives. I remember seeing a patient who was a bit skeptical, and we started to talk about meal prep. I told her to come back and see me in a month. She brought her husband, and she said, "My whole family's meal prepping. Everybody's meal prepping. My mother, my father were sharing recipes, and it was game changing." So it became a passion of mine. And last year I decided to open Room for Health, where we see patients on a more concierge level. We see couples, families, and we really work on preventing chronic diseases. And if they already have them, reducing the severity. And then if their concern is weight related, we also work on all of the things that are related to that. And we took things a step further and created a nonprofit called Health is Home, where we take these same concepts and we bring them out into the community for movement based initiatives and nutrition activities. Like, we have an event coming up together in Wildwood where we're cooking together and talking about chronic diseases to their population. Recently, we did Christmas caroling at multiple facilities. So, we're always looking for great ways to get the community together and movement together, because data has really shown us that that can be the way that we heal our communities.
Yeah, it's the
Um,
top one of the top pillars. I mean, there's 5 main ones that I talk about with longevity, but community and relationships is right up there, and depending on who you ask, right, like, there's the group saying nutrition is the number 1 pillar, sleep is the number 1 pillar,
mhm,
community is the number 1 pillar, and it's a very formidable contender as to, like, the top
it's the
impactor
top
of our
one.
lifespan and our health span, yeah. Of
Yeah, and what if it's a accumulation of all of them, right? And that's why
course, of
there's
course.
the pillars. So I am in my 40s. I am 42, which is crazy to think how I thought I was going to be in my 20s forever, and I'm not. But lots of days I feel like I am. For my recreational activities, I love my family. I have a grandson who just turned 3 that I'm absolutely obsessed with, and I love to do all the things outside with him. I enjoy traveling, kayaking, paddleboarding, and anything that really keeps me active and gets my endorphins flowing.
Oh my gosh, how
Mhm.
fun. How fun. And, I'm sure you kept your kids active and continue to, and you're spreading that to the
Abs-
next generation, and
Absolutely. Yep.
yeah.
Absolutely. Movement is medicine. So we practice what we preach.
Yeah, it's so fun, and I've had conversations with people just anecdotally kind of just happened, but there's also so much research that backs this up that especially as kids start to enter those adolescent and teen years where they tend to shut down a little bit more. If you go out on a walk, or it's the same thing of, like, if when they're in the back seat and you're in the front, they're more likely to open up. But, like, going out for a walk, going out for a bike ride, going kayaking, like,
Mhm.
and especially with tech these days, like, doing these things with your kids also just helps your relationship.
Absolutely, that
Yeah.
bonding, and teaching them that when they're really little, like my grandson is, I think is key. He doesn't pick up an iPad or the TV when we're together. It's what's the adventure of the day nanny kind of thing. So
What a gift, what a treasure.
yeah, it truly is. Yep, I'm very lucky. So yeah, that's me. That's my life in a nutshell so far, and I'm really excited to see where healthcare and health of our communities goes like moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're really so one logistical question, do you see people only in person or do you support folks virtually as well?
Virtually, more virtually than in person because that just seems to create less effort for the patient and fitting it into busy lives.
Yeah, totally. Are you licensed mainly only in New York or
So I am licensed in New York and Florida. We are spending more time in Florida for the next few months. We've picked up a contract seeing veterans here, performing veteran examinations, and it will take us a few months to get the contract down and our patient flow down. We're still back in New York at least 1 week a month. So I do see the majority of my patients virtually, and we'll see some of them in person when I come back once a week for now,
Okay,
but it will
very
be more.
cool. Very cool. I'll make sure that everything's linked in the show notes too so anybody can find
Okay, perfect. Thanks so much.
it. Wonderful. So, um tell me why, because you could have chose any pillar, right? Why did you get so excited and why did you wanna talk about exercise tonight?
So I think that exercise is something that we all struggle with. I know I was raised, and the majority of my friends were raised in a world where exercise is something that is taught as optional.
Mhm,
It is taught as something we do in our free time versus something that should be automatic, like brushing your teeth and showering every day. It is integral for human beings to move. If we look back at our society 500, 1,000 years ago, if we go back to the beginning, humans were built to move. It was from the second we woke up, we were foraging for food, we were building shelter for the next season, just, getting clean clothes. It took a half of the day. It took us being physical all day, every day. We
yeah,
were created to move. When we look in nature as systems, we look at the birds, the bees, horses, any of those things. We don't see a lot of obesity in
mhm,
animals, right? But we also don't see animals spending the majority of the day sitting down.
mhm,
We don't see animals spending not moving, essentially. So, how do we get back to the roots of what our bodies are made to do, that movement, at the same time that we are in a different world full of technology? It's also one of the key things I talk about with the patients that I work with. Health is more than just what we eat. It's
mhm,
also how we move and all of the other things you mentioned too, all of those things that are in the pillars, right? But I exercise is something I see the majority of the patients I see struggling with it. How to do it, how to fit it in, and how to make it work in real life.
mhm, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've taken all of the friction out of life. Um, and with it comes all kinds of consequences, right? We're not meant to
Yes,
have a frictionless existence.
and
And
I agree with that. Yep.
I read books about how to make sure my kids have the right amount of friction, right, as they
Yes.
develop, and my husband and I talk about the right amount of adversity actually makes it more fun, why, like, some of our favorite memories are when something went just a little bit wrong, and a
Agreed.
big move or a big challenge, like, creates yeah. It's
I
true,
agree
it's
with
so
that. I agree with that. One of my first years practicing, I worked for a provider in Watervliet, and it was a pretty stressful adjustment going from a nurse mentality to a diagnostic nurse practitioner mentality. And I would at the end of the week, I would be like, "Wow, I'm so stressed." And he's like, "Oh, you're just building your stress muscles. See, they're getting bigger. Your stress muscles are getting bigger." But the only way we get those stress muscles bigger is by adversity and that friction, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So we have consequences of our bodies are meant to move. We've reduced the friction
Mhm.
to so many different levels and degrees, and
Yeah,
we could talk all night about that. And now we have
absolutely.
to go out of our way to make a natural thing fit into our day.
Yes. When we're never taught as children to do that. We're never taught we're taught you te you know, we I was taught to brush my teeth, to shower, to wash my hair. No one ever said to me, besides that 30 minutes of physical education class in school, that
Yeah.
movement has to be a part of what we do to stay healthy. And I can tell you, in any role that I played, we know what the data and research says, but what does 20 years of seeing patients say? And I can tell you the 80 or 90-year-old patients that I've seen that are not on any medication, they're on a multivitamin, they're on vitamin D, but they are not on, they have no chronic diseases. A key differentiating factor is that they are getting in that 150 minutes of exercise a day. These are the 80 and 90-year-olds that you see playing pickleball,
Yeah.
right? Like
Mhm.
versus some of my 30, 40, 50, 20-year-olds even that have
Yeah.
a slew of medication,
Yep.
right? A lot of this, and I don't want to say all because obviously there are, we're focusing, on the chronic diseases that are diabetes, high blood pressure, and high cholesterol, right? So when it comes to those three things, the majority of people, and what the data says about the genetic, inheriting of these conditions, high cholesterol is a 0.33% of the population that inherits high cholesterol. We inherit behaviors.
Yeah.
The
Mhm.
rest is inherited behaviors, inherited relationships with exercise, inherited relationships with food.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, how do we change that for this generation and the future generations where these chronic diseases are America's most expensive problem?
Yep.
Period. There is not anything out there that will ever refute what I just said. It is what it is. So how do we change that? Where does that, and exercise is movement. I hate to even call it exercise because it's that movement,
Yeah.
that we're lacking and that can make the biggest difference.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So, I mean, like, when I talk about longevity with folks or when I do, like, my spiel or whatever it is, like, the thing I try to stand by is, like, a blend of all the different sources of research and
Mm,
how long we're going to live and how health span is how long we live without chronic disease, how long we live healthily, right? So how that looks is 80% environmental lifestyle choice. And for some folks, it goes a little bit different. There are people who have like inherited conditions or things like that that certainly make things more difficult. But if we take and try to like homogenize the population and pull the averages, 80% is completely within our control. And in some folks, that's even higher. So, and what you're saying is like, if only, let's say 1% of high cholesterol is
mhm.
inherited, and I've met patients like that, I've been
Yes.
with them for a year, they control every single factor they can
Mhm.
control, and they're like, "Mom, dad, grandma on this side, and my brother all have the same problem."
Yep.
Alright, great, you're unfortunately one of those unlucky people, right?
Mhm.
But, like, high blood pressure, there's a genetic component there, but that's so multifactorial, and it's really under research again, like there's so
Yes.
much research even about statins as well with cholesterol, but
Yep.
okay, so let's just say like 95, let's be generous.
Mhm.
95% of folks who are diagnosed with these conditions did not have to be.
Yes. And you know what that translates to from a hospital perspective? 95% of hospital admissions then don't have to be hospital admissions with chronic diseases. And what that means, that coronary artery disease, that heart attack, the stroke, the aneurysms, the diabetic complications of kidney disease, neuropathy, amputations, how
Yep.
many of those are preventable admissions?
Mhm. Mhm. Countless.
Countless.
Mhm.
Countless. And I have talked to ER friends of mine that work in the ER, and I asked them that question, and they say 75% or more every time. 75% of the admissions we see started with one of these preventable chronic diseases.
And I know firsthand, anecdotally, that the hospitals are completely overrun. When I had my daughter in 2022, she was our second, we kinda knew what we were doing, we knew our doctors, we got in,
Yeah.
we got out. I had a C-section, and I was out in under 24 hours because I was like, "Get me out of here." My doctor
Yes.
signed off on it.
Mhm.
They did there was they didn't even recheck my blood. There was a bubble in my IV, and I was like, "Get that bubble out of here." Like, but we could see flashing on the screen, overrun, like, at capacity, over
Yes.
capacity, under capacity,
Yes.
and I've heard stories from people as recent as a month ago where they went to an ER and they were in the hallway for 2 days.
Yes.
and they couldn't be seen. I have another story where went in with
Yes, again.
a somewhat urgent injury to a dominant hand, didn't get seen for like 15 hours,
Mm.
and caused an impact, right? It's just
Yes.
there's so many problems we could get into.
Yes. And it's a
And
systematic failure. And I don't want to say failure, but it's a systematic
it's
issue
about
on so many levels, right? When we look at, the whole course from childhood to, and we didn't even touch on the fact that we have the highest rates of type 2 diabetes in children we've ever seen. So we're going to see more kids admitted with these complications. And there isn't an ER provider that's going to refute what you just said. Yes, patients are in hallways. Yes, patients can't get in. Yes, it's so difficult to filter through the true emergency issues versus your frequent flyers that are also, we have a whole population of people with chronic diseases that are uninsured or underinsured and are utilizing emergency rooms as primary care providers.
Mhm.
It opens up a completely different, subset of issues. So when we look at it from the systematic view, like you and I are looking at it, how do we change this curve for
Yeah.
this generation and future generations? How do we
Mhm.
kind of break the system in a positive way?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And one of the other things too is like more harsher critics of the system are pointing out the fact that it is not broken. It's working exactly as it was meant to work. It's completely for profit, not for health. And it sucks for all the providers, which is all of them. You wouldn't go through this much schooling, even
Mhm.
like to be any level of ancillary provider, dietitian, speech pathologist, anything. You need a master's degree, you need an internship or a fellowship, like all of this stuff. You wouldn't go into it if it wasn't for the right reasons. And that's who's suffering. And then the patients are who's suffering. And who's not suffering? The insurance companies and the pharmaceutical companies. And it's so awful.
Yes, yes. I think that, I've dealt with some insurance companies, and even the insurance companies are feeling it
Mhm.
because these are America's most expensive problems,
Yeah.
right? The insurance company can't keep up with our highest expenditures in the system. So
Yeah.
for every healthy 40-year-old, we have 5 unhealthy 40-year-olds with multiple chronic conditions.
Mhm.
There's no way the system can change. I mean, yes, they could probably cut some salaries, right? That might be helpful, but at the same time, I see my friends that work for health insurance companies, they are cutting rolls left and right
Yeah.
because I think it is the entire system from them down that cannot carry the weight of this.
Mhm.
It's like a broken machine essentially.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. So you're practicing. People aren't really using this term yet, but I'm using it and I really like it.
Yeah,
You're practicing prevention. You're practicing
I love that.
holistically.
Yes.
So you're really practicing medicine 3.0.
I would say yes. I mean, I still will prescribe some pharmaceuticals, right, when
Yeah,
it's really
3.0
needed.
and evolved
Yeah,
does not mean that we
it's are
completely
against
abandon.
pharmaceuticals. But I think that when we look at other countries, for example, you go to Greece, and when someone comes in with they're struggling with anxiety, depression, IBS symptoms, they give them a note to go take a day off of work and go to the ocean. And they
Mhm.
ask them, "When is the last time you took a break? When is the last time you put that phone down?" I have never, ever, until I started working on my own, given a prescription that said, "You need to put your phone down and take a break for the day."
Mhm. Mhm. Yep.
So, yes, I do think, we'll do labs and a lot of other
Absolutely.
things, but it is definitely more preventative medicine, but that doesn't mean that all of the patients that have come to see me that already have these chronic diseases, our goal is to decrease the severity of those once they're already there. And a lot of the patients that come to see me, they want to know, how do I shorten this medication list and stop adding to it?
Exactly. Yep, exactly. I'm completely aligned. Yeah, it doesn't mean that we're not trusting in science.
No, I
Medications and
love science.
pharmaceuticals have saved so many lives. We're
Absolutely.
still evidence-based, but
Yes.
the thing that's differentiating 3.0 is treating the person holistically, focusing on prevention,
Yes.
and providing more individualism versus
Mhm.
like you have high blood pressure and I'm just gonna give you a
Oh,
medication. This is
yes,
let's go.
absolutely.
What is that, sweetie? I'll be done in a little bit.
Ah.
When am I gonna be done at my desk?
That's the question of the hour always when I'm
It's
with my
always
family too. They're like, "When are you gonna?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I don't
I know. Yeah.
know." That's real
No, it's,
funny.
yeah, it's just slowing down and treating the person as a whole person, right? And
Yeah.
it's about, like, exactly that. How do we not add to this? It's really a way of saying, "Let's think critically and treat the person like a person,
And
and let's focus on preventing further things versus
yeah.
reacting when you're already sick." So,
Yes,
yeah,
and
that's
not
how I'm
putting
branding
people in a
myself
box.
too. Yeah,
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 we can't, the box of medicine and exercise and box diet, and that just isn't,
exactly.
again, like everything we've talked about from ER weights to we didn't even enter the weights with your primary care doctor.
Mhm. Yeah.
That how do we, despite all of that, focus on medicine 3.0? I love that. A prevention 3.0. What did you call it? Medicine
It's
3.0?
it's called Medicine 3.0, and
Yeah,
I'm
I love it.
calling my own version, like, Nutrition 3.0, and,
Yep.
like, the tenets are we're not abandoning science, we're not abandoning pharmaceuticals, we're definitely not abandoning lab testing, but we're asking for, like, better lab testing.
Better.
We're thinking critically, we're focusing on prevention,
Mhm.
and we're trying and me, my spin adds empowerment as, like, my number 1
Empowerment's huge.
component.
Yes,
Yeah, it's so, so,
empowerment is
so
huge.
huge. Yeah.
Yep,
Well, we could talk
definitely.
all night. I do before we dive deeper into the exercise component, since we're talking about it, I do wanna ask you your take on we could go in a lot of directions, but specifically, this is what I'm working on. GLP-1s for non-obesity, non-diabetes weight loss. What are
So I
you Yeah.
so I think that in any time we're considering using any medication in medicine 3.0, we need to ask ourselves a question. What can we do before that?
Mhm.
What hasn't been done before that? Right? So if you're looking at using a GLP-1 to treat, what is an example you'd say of something that you're thinking of when you talk about GLPs for non-obesity, non-diabetic conditions? What is
I
one of your
have
top?
a lot of
Okay.
patients, especially midlife women who are taking Mounjaro or Wegovy or Ozempic for the last 20 pounds.
Oh,
Or
so you
the
mean if
20
they're not obese? Okay.
it's
Okay.
non-obese, no
Okay.
so it's not your traditional what used to be the indicators, and then, it's
So they're
been
getting
giving
them
diabetes
through.
for decades.
Yes. So I paused for a second because there's new research coming out that they are going to use GLP-1s for some addiction.
Yes, yeah,
So I wanted to
that's what I
see,
found.
what your if that's the kind of direction you were leaning
Sorry,
in.
no, it's, like,
No, no.
it's for non-obesity related weight loss,
Yes.
is what
So,
I yeah.
yes. Oh boy. Yeah, I got a lot to So I had to say that I prescribed GLP-1s. I started out this track when I was working for a company that I loved, and I loved my boss. Hi, Kyle. If you're watching, you're still the best. And we opened up a clinic. I was the first provider to see patients there where we were dispensing GLP-1s. And they are very, very difficult drugs to come off of for a lot of patients.
Yeah.
The problem, and I don't want to say the problem, but the science behind GLP-1s, they slow down gastroparesis. So the way that your body moves through your stomach is slowed down. When you swallow from your esophagus to your rectum, your system contracts, and that's what's moving food through your system. A lot of the drugs work by slowing down those contractions so food moves faster, longer. Patients can lose that last 20 pounds, but once they do, the fear of gaining the weight back will keep patients on it longer than they should be.
Yeah.
Secondly, the if you don't change the behavior behind hi. Ah,
She's
what's
3, but
happening?
she calls this baby mode,
I
where she just puts
love
on a
it.
diaper. Hey,
I
good
wanna
point
go into
there.
baby mode,
You're
not
not
with a
supposed to put
diaper,
hair
but
in your
just in
mouth,
general.
and it's so cold, and she just wants to be in just a diaper.
She belongs in Florida, that's why.
I
Mhm.
know.
Ah.
Her name's Christina. Do you wanna say hi?
Hi, what's your name?
She said, "What's your name?"
Aiden.
Her name's
What is
Arden.
it?
Gonna say it again?
Aiden.
Arden.
Arden? That's beautiful. How old are you?
I she talk.
She said, "How old are you?"
I she talking cloudy.
Well, it's in my earbuds, so I'm translating for you. Can you tell her how old you are?
Three.
Yeah,
3?
there
Oh
you
my gosh, I
go.
love that age. That's so fun.
Here, set the pen down, and I'll give you your Larabar. Here you go.
Oh, she is precious.
She is. There you go. Okay, I had a feeling that would happen,
Oh, your
but
life is so much like mine. You have no idea, girl. I understand. I
but
understand. I understand so much. She's adorable.
yeah, thank
Yep.
you.
Yep. She's
Okay,
very
so
cute.
it's very hard to get off them. Gastroparesis, there's risk
Yes.
there.
And the reality is, no matter how much weight you need to lose, have you looked at the issues that caused you to gain the weight in the first place
Or why you can't lose it.
or why you can't lose it? And have you really, for example, I saw a patient a few weeks ago doing everything right. I went to see her at home and we looked through the cabinets. She was never mentioned a few drinks that she was drinking. She did have high blood pressure. We took a look at the labels. It was looked really healthy, said heart healthy on it. She was drinking like 2 times the amount of sodium she should have been in this drink per day and had no idea that that was the case, right? So once we did that, she started, she's already starting to see she's losing some of the edema, the swelling around her legs, her blood pressure is better. So looking at when we talk about looking at everything a patient is ingesting, we
Yeah.
mean every single thing
Yeah.
because sometimes there is a missing link to that. The second piece is have you had all the labs done? So let's say you have that 20 pounds, stubborn 20 pounds to lose that won't, come off, and you've seen maybe a primary care provider and we do standard labs. That does not mean people will say, give me the full panel. The full panel isn't all of the things that could be related to weight gain, right? Like that's a
Right.
completely different panel that we might be looking at. So if you had your standard panel where your doctor did everything, right, for your normal checkup, but no one's looked at deeper thyroid hormones, your
Mhm.
parathyroid hormones, your actual hormones as a man or a woman. Could you have something underlying like PCOS? Something about me, a personal tidbit I never talk about. I have PCOS. I've had PCOS since I was in my early 20s, I found out. What that means for me is that and I notice the difference of my simple carb intake. It is like the
Mhm.
third diabetes. It's much harder for me to process that glucose, right?
Yeah.
And I can feel it. If I eat a bagel for breakfast, I need a nap in 20 minutes. Okay?
Yeah.
Like I can barely keep my eyes open because it's too much sugar for my body at one time to process. So, if I didn't know that and a doctor hadn't diagnosed me years ago, and I ate the way I did for all of that time in my 30s, I would not be able to lose 20 pounds. That would be 20 pounds around my midsection because that's exactly where it goes with PCOS when you're
Yep.
eating a higher carb diet, right? That
Mm.
20 pounds would still be there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm because of that lab work, it's made the biggest difference in my own weight and my own dietary challenges. And I can tell you the weeks where, sorry, I'm losing a pause. The weeks where I'm not on it, it's on air. Hold on one second. Yep. Weeks where, let's say, I'm traveling a ton or there's holidays and I'm eating more carbs than I usually do, I can gain 20 pounds in a month because that's how my body works, right?
Mhm.
Like, Thankfully, I don't, but, I know the reality for me, but if I'd never had that done, I could be that person that's saying, "Oh my god, why can't I get rid of this last 20 pounds?"
Right.
Right?
Right.
So, that last 20 pounds that we're trying to lose, we need to look at all of the reasons, all of the blood work, your entire picture. Maybe you need someone to come look in your cabinets. Maybe
Right.
you think you've told your dietitian, nutritionist, or provider every single thing you eat, but you're leaving something out, right?
Right.
Maybe you need those extra labs to see if there's a condition present like PCOS that could
Mhm.
really impact your ability to lose that. Maybe you need at this point a different kind of exercise that you're doing. For
Yeah.
example, right? I'll see patients who've been doing the same routine for 5 years. And so when they were 35, it worked, but now that they're 40, their body is telling them sometimes that extra 20 pounds, it's your body telling you you're doing something I don't like anymore,
Mhm.
or you're not doing something that I do like. You're not doing enough of something I do like.
Right.
So changing that path, that those patterns to see what works for you as you change throughout your lifestyle is extremely important throughout your lifespan, right? Because
Mhm.
as you know, health in a woman, a man at 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, your body changes drastically. 35, they say, is our optimal physical health. It is when we are potentially at our optimum. So after that point, you may need to change some things that worked historically and didn't now.
Yep.
The second piece is you can lose the 20 pounds on a GLP-1, but if you didn't, especially if you're getting it through a website or through a place where you're not getting an actual physical exam done, where you're not getting actual labs done, you'll lose the 20 pounds, but you're going to gain it back. And then it may even trigger further issues, right?
Yeah.
Let's say your thyroid level comes back. I could do labs as a remote provider, right? But let's say your labs come back normal and I see you in person and do a physical the week later and you have a giant thyroid nodule,
Mhm.
right? That your labs are coming back normal, but there's an underlying pathology there with
Mhm.
goiter or thyroid nodules that is still can affect, the function and the way that you feel, so to
Yeah.
speak. The next thing is parathyroid issues. These are a huge one without blood work that can be missed and can greatly affect weight. So society again, let's look at the system. Systematically, we are being taught to be the most superficial. We are being taught that the skinny is the healthy, okay? I've worked
Mhm.
with the gentleman that mentioned the stress muscles. I worked with a largely Indian population, and I am Asian, let's say. They were eating a diet that was historically, culturally composed of high carbs. We would do a diet, and they were thin, but they would come in with the worst A1Cs I'd ever seen in my life. Just didn't make
Mm.
sense. So, a normal A1C, that is your 3-month average of blood glucose. This is one of the standards for diagnosing type 2 diabetes. It should be below 6.5. Okay. 5.7 to 6.5 is pre-diabetes. A lot of America's living there.
Mhm.
6.5 and above is diabetes. So I would have someone coming in with a normal BMI whose A1C was 10, 11, 12, 13. And we would do a diet recall and they would tell me they wake up and they eat homemade bread and rice. For lunch, they have homemade bread and rice. And for dinner, they have homemade bread and rice. And no provider has ever told them to do anything different. And then they say, oh, no, I have the diabetes because my mother has the diabetes. My father has the diabetes. Well, their mother and father ate the same way.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
So I think that GLPs have a place, but I think if anyone's going to take them, there is a reason why the standards say you have to be in a certain obesity category
Yeah.
for them to be prescribed,
Yep.
right? And if you're going to take them, even if you're in that category, seeing a provider, making sure that you've had a physical where someone has felt your thyroid, felt your abdomen, put their hands on you, and done the full labs, right?
Yeah.
That would include everything possible for weight gain, not just what you have done on an annual physical, is of utmost importance.
Yeah, and educating yourself on the side effects to look out for and the risks you're taking on. The reason I'm diving so deep into supporting these clients specifically
Yeah.
is not to take a stance of for or against.
Yes.
A lot of dietitians are like up in arms, dismissing this whole situation. This is wrong. There's like a certain, it's very dietitian-y.
Yes.
But that's really not me. Like, I'm really taking an individualized approach, and I'm
I love
really
that.
just like I'm playing with how I can say it on a more marketing level of
Mhm.
there's no judgment. If you're on it, you need to have a strategy.
Absolutely.
Every single person that comes through my virtual door did not know the risks they were taking on.
No.
I have yet to meet a person who has taken one of these medications, either from some online thing or from a very trusted doctor, and been aware of all of the risks. So that's my big project right now. That's what I'm really working on. But um I think
So,
that's what's driving me nuts is the risks are there and no one's ever been told them, but it's just highlighting the problem that's always been there with medications. We
yeah.
prescribe it and then it's up to you to figure out what the side effects might be. But I actually have a
Yes.
quick one for you. I met a woman very recently and on our first call, we're going through her medications and I'm like, what's this one for? What's this one for? A lot of them were not for their traditional indication, which was interesting. But here's the thing. She was prescribed tirzepatide and phentermine.
Oh, boy.
She's been on phentermine for over 3 years.
Oh, boy. How is her mood?
Fine.
Okay, that's good.
I actually looking at her, isn't phentermine like I almost blacked out. I was like, what's this one for? She said energy. And I said, I'm calling 911. Like, why have you been on this for 3.5 years?
Yeah.
I'm actually shocked she wasn't in a worse condition.
Yeah.
Isn't phentermine, like, really a very short-term use? Would you, like
Well,
is
it's
my
a
reaction just, like, a little
I mean,
because it wasn't an empowered level of these prescriptions?
yeah, yeah. I think that it depends on the patient, the indication, etc. Some people based on like the dose or history, and that's why like the individualized approach is so important because you really need to be able to look at the whole picture of the patient, right?
Yeah,
So like if she had come to you and this is where also maybe getting some medical records on her behalf may have
yeah,
been helpful because I can't tell you how many patients I have told them why they're on a drug. I've told them the indication and they hear something different.
totally, absolutely.
But once they have it in writing, they understand, right? They can look back at it and say, oh, I'm on phentermine for this. I'm still on phentermine for that. The next concern that I had for her was she getting the tirzepatide from the same provider she's getting the phentermine from, and do they know all about all of the things? So, it's rare that patients are going to be on phentermine and a GLP for weight loss,
I know.
right? So, and the last thing I want to say is the prescribing provider could have said a couple things.
Yeah.
The patient may be getting a drug from a different provider, but it's on that med list, right?
So she had no idea these weren't good. They all came from the same provider.
They all came from the same provider. So I'm sure the provider explained the risks, and I've seen this happen where a patient refuses to come off of a drug. That's another thing. So I can say, hey, I'm not prescribing this anymore because of X, Y, or Z. But it's that psychological fear that I mentioned before of GLPs coming
Yeah,
off of it.
yeah.
That you're gonna get the rebound, and for this patient, the provider could have said, "Hey, this is your last month getting this,"
Mm,
and the patient's like, "No, I'm gonna get it from somewhere else."
mm. That's not her case specifically, but
Yeah.
I think it's important to yeah, it's, I just was, like, very startled. That's when I
Yeah.
took, like, a
No. And
I, like,
that's
couldn't
why I asked
focus.
about her mood because there can be some issues, with that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, she's gonna be just fine, gonna get it
Abs
all figured out, but I was, like, very
Absolutely.
startled by that. So I'm like, "Why are you jacking up this woman in perimenopause with all these medications?" So,
Yeah.
tricky,
And
tricky,
did
tricky,
she
but,
have labs done for the perimenopause?
about a year ago, yeah.
Okay, okay, good, good. That's
Mhm.
a good thing. At least they're, looking at
Yeah,
all the factors.
yeah.
So it's so
So wild.
everyone's so individual,
I know,
and patients often just don't understand also.
I
They
know.
and I could say I prescribed many GLPs, when I was in that area of work and I would list all of the side effects and people their eyes would glaze over. All they would hear were the commercials that
Yeah,
says you can look like the best version of yourself, right?
yeah,
Because we're mistaking a normal BMI or being skinny with being healthy.
yeah, we're going back to thinness is the only way to be healthy.
Yes. And again,
Mhm.
like my example before with the elevated A1Cs, thinness doesn't always mean healthy.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I totally agree with you. Well, in the interest of time, let's dive
Yes.
into exercise. So,
Yes.
so we talked about the pillars. We talk about the research is always changing. Like
Yep.
we are both providers who'll be like, listen, we need to update this information, or I have not hesitated to be like, listen, I was wrong. Information has changed about something, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I think if you're going to be a provider and you want more than a 5-year career, you have to be willing to pivot and be agile and stay up to date. And that's all well and good. Unavoidable. That's called science, right?
Yep.
That's called humans. That's called medicine. However, what is the one thing no one can refute within those pillars?
Exercise. Movement.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Human
No
body's
one
made
can
for it.
say it's bad. So
Yeah.
I love it. I love that it's exciting for you. So let's dive in. So what do you kind of want to point out first about exercise? What are some ways that you get it in? What
Yeah.
do you see? If you have any examples from your patients and things like that, because our lives are so busy and people are just really overwhelmed. And that's why we see it as optional because so many people are in fight or flight.
Yep.
So something has to give, right?
Yes. Something has to give. So, I'll say a few things. I've tried multiple times, exercise multiple different ways. I've been a proud member of Planet Fitness for about 10 years now. That is my go-to, and there's a few different reasons. They're hours. So
Mm,
we're talking a 24-hour, 7-day a week gym. So the weeks where my life is crazy, busy, there are times I might need to show up at the gym at 4 a.m. Okay. I have tried every other time in the world to work out. It is very rare for me that if it's afternoon, like noon o'clock, that I'm going to make it to a routine. The morning for the busiest person, the most overwhelmed people, first thing in the morning exercise before the world, I call it a super secret time because the world hasn't gotten you yet. The emails
yeah.
haven't started, the kids aren't awake, whether it's at home or in a physical gym. The world just has not gotten you yet. There's also this concept because we've never been told as children that we have to exercise, right? We've never been told, brush your teeth, shower, but no one ever says as kids, hey, you have to exercise, you have to get this done. There's a level of guilt there. A lot of
Mhm.
patients I see struggle with exercise guilt.
Yep.
They feel like, how dare they spend an hour during the day when they could be dusting, cleaning, doing laundry, these things that society has told us are so important that we do, right? But if we get diabetes and lose limbs and can't walk, those things are going to be really hard to do at the end of the day.
Yeah. Mhm.
So first thing in the morning is a really golden time for a lot of people. For the busiest of people, I recommend that. And for myself, it's my go-to. I looked back, another reason I love Planet Fitness, there are multiple locations. So where my career is taking me, there's lots of times I'm traveling, I'm in new places, I'm in different states. I'm in New York one week, Florida the next. I have been to about 10 Planet Fitnesses all over the place from multiple locations in the capital region, New Jersey, Florida, South Florida. I mean, all over. When we were in like Wyoming, I hit a Planet Fitness there. So there are literally, they take away the need for excuses because and the cheap membership. So,
Mhm.
there's things that we look for when we're trying to make exercise easy. Cost is a
Mhm.
big one. Convenience, right?
Mhm.
Convenience is another big one. And a lot of people mistake convenience for what works. So I want to, make a little side note here. For some people, the convenience just doesn't work. So I could have a treadmill in my house or I am not going to use it.
Mhm.
And I know because I've tried and I failed.
Mhm.
And we try things. And even if we want it to work because it's easy and convenient, if it doesn't work, we need to stop trying to do the same thing.
And stop feeling guilty that it doesn't work, even if you now have a $2 or $3,000 coat rack in your basement.
Yes,
You need to
exactly.
move on.
You need to move on. You've tried it for 6 months, it didn't work, that's fine. So you go to the next convenient option. What is the closest physical place for you to get out of the house and be in an environment where you can exercise, right? So I would
Mhm.
say mornings personally have worked for me, and I am not a morning person. I never thought I would be a morning person, but I am so hooked on my routine in the morning and how great that I feel and how I've reached my own physical, health goals and weight goals and just all of it. It has been a game changer for me. The next thing is realistically looking at your life and saying, where can I fit this in? Right. And for some patients, it's not first thing in the morning because maybe they're a single mother with 3 kids they can't leave
Mhm.
to go physically out in the gym and that routine hasn't worked. So whether it's 30 minutes in the middle of the day that you are going to do that exercise, right? What we
Mhm.
call technical exercise. And this is where I'm going to bridge off into technical exercise isn't enough,
Yeah.
right? So we're talking about data from Harvard over 30 years that talked about a concept called NEAT exercise. And can never, I always, say this wrong. Non-exercise, what's the A?
Activity thermogenesis.
Activity
I know that
thermogenesis.
because I forgot the activity
Eh?
when I was talking about it, like, last week.
Let's
Yeah.
make sure we edit that part out.
Yes. But there's
No,
no editing here.
okay, non-exercise activity
Activity. Yeah.
thermogenic, right? So NEAT exercise. So if I look at your life and 24 hours as a pie chart, and I tell you, okay, it's important that you are going to get 150 minutes or 30 minutes a day of exercising. That's about this much of the pie chart. Maybe not
Mhm.
even. It's just
Mhm.
it's a smidge, a little sliver. How do we change that pie chart so that more of your day is active versus more of your day is sedentary? So if
Mhm.
you're just getting in that 30 minutes a day, your pie chart is all non-movement and this much movement a day. How do
Mhm.
we reverse that so your exercise is like this and your sedentariness is like this?
Mhm.
This has been shown to drastically have incredible health impacts on chronic disease and weight. So how do we get people to move more that isn't just formal exercise?
Yeah, the $1,000,000 question. I mean,
Then-
you work all day, more than all day sometimes, right? Like, same with me.
Oh yeah.
We have in this way, we're similar that we both have say over our schedule to varying degrees day to day.
Yep.
So one of the things I do, is I take my calls and meetings that I don't need to be, like, taking notes or in front of my computer or, like, it's not a brand new client on their first time or whatever. I take them walking,
Yes. I love that. I think that's incredible.
and my
And I
brain works better, I can focus better, like, especially if it's, like, a multi-person meeting or, almost any kind I can make a case where I just perform better and I'm more online and I can get in and people use their steps to track their NEAT,
mm,
kind of,
yes.
right? Like, I started wearing an Apple Watch in the fall, and I was getting, like, 5,000 steps a day just putzing around my house, like,
Yep.
getting the kids out the door in the morning, getting myself ready, doing the dishes, running up and down the stairs multiple times, like, and then still working all day, I was still getting that
Mhm.
just from putzing around my house. That would be
Yes,
neat. Intentional
exactly.
walks is somewhere in the middle depending on what you're doing,
But you're
and then
keeping your pie chart. Regardless,
right,
you're getting more movement and you're
right,
sitting less, right? Like,
right,
so other tips, and I love that you do that, and I think that that's, like, key if someone can take a call and walk. I'm
right.
also a phone walker, so when I'm on the
Yep,
phone, I'm automatically moving and walking. It's just the way it is.
absolutely.
Other things I recommend for people that are at an all-day job is set a timer.
Mm,
Every 30 minutes, you need to get up for 5 minutes, walking
mhm,
around the office, walking to the bathroom if you work at home remotely. And the more you can change that, maybe it's 10 minutes every 30 minutes. Maybe it is getting the stationary bikes that are by your desk. So as you're charting, you can be biking, or the stationary treadmills. So
mhm,
you can be moving while you're on work, a sit and stand
mhm.
desk where you are, always trying to get everyone's always trying to get abs and abdominal. Like you can do standing walking man, right? Like while you are at your
Maybe I should do
stand and
some.
sit desk,
Let's
right? While you're
do
sitting,
some marching.
you wouldn't even know I'm doing any exercise
Right,
right now, but
right.
I'm
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 wiggling
moving
around.
and my heart rate's getting up. Exactly.
Yeah,
So how
yeah.
can you incorporate that movement in anything you do? Parking further away. It's always a pain to park closer to the store anyways. Park further away from the store, right?
Mhm.
Park further away when you are on a walk with your family. And let's, go to the family time, which we all have, no matter how busy we are. There are hours during the week where you are spending time with your family. How about instead of Netflix and chill, you take a walk together?
Yeah.
How about instead of telling your kids, watch the TV or an iPad or watch a show, you guys get out and go to the farmer's market on Saturday, or you go to the mall and you walk around?
Mhm,
Or when is the last time you played hide and go seek with your children, right?
mhm,
All of that is considered neat movement.
mhm.
So anything that you could possibly do and creating that routine, whether it's setting that alarm that hey, every hour, every 20 minutes, so often I'm taking this minute to just move and walk around the house. You're going to see that, like you said, those steps increase every day. You're going to see more oxygenation because when we move, we breathe, it oxygenates our brain, and we think and feel better.
Mhm, absolutely, and another one is, like, when you wanna meet up with a friend or a play date or, like, a networking meeting or something
Yes.
like that. I have caught people so off guard before, and then they, liked it. Like, I was like, "Can
Yeah.
we meet? Can we, stroll? Like, we can grab coffee, but then let's stroll." Especially when it's
Yeah.
nice out, people are on board, and they're like, "Yeah, I guess,"
Yeah. Yeah.
and then they're like, "Oh, this was a great idea." I'm like, "Yeah, let's just move. Let's just think outside the box."
Let's
Yeah.
absolutely. And I will say, on a personal note, I've done a little bit of dating in the past few months. And instead of meeting for dinner or meeting for a drink, I always say, let's meet for a sunset. Let's meet for a walk. Let's meet, and have there and it serves a lot of different purposes, but
Yes.
it's very helpful to get out there with someone and to get moving, and it gives me that opportunity to also see if someone's aligned in the same desire to be physically active as I am.
It's just cool to see people's reaction too.
It is cool. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. If a guy's like, "What? You don't wanna have a drink?" I'm like, "Yeah, no, I wanna go. I wanna have a walk," you
"Let's
know?
go snowshoeing or something."
Oh,
Yeah,
exactly. Let's go snowshoeing. Let's go hiking.
I
Let's
love
go
that.
skiing. Yeah,
Yeah,
get to see that. So I think that
very
there's
cool.
all kinds of ways we can change the narrative with patients and ourselves, to really, even if your job does require sitting all day, and changing our recreational activities too, really. I mean, you nailed it with that. Like,
Yeah,
changing them.
just think outside the box,
Yeah.
and I've seen a patient's, blood sugar doing, they're called fart walks on Instagram or on TikTok or whatever, where you walk after a meal and get your digestion going. I
Oh,
have
I love
seen
that.
that, like, really turn around an A1C. Like, that plus other changes, we're talking an A1C improvement of over 3 points in like 2 months.
That's amazing.
I know.
I
I know it's
mean,
only supposed to
amazing.
be drawn every 3, but whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, "Hey, let's party," this is
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
But, like, just doing, like, 5 minutes after a meal and people talk about that, like, for digestion, for gut health, and, like,
Yeah.
it's so you're right, the narrative, like, I prescribe that to my patients with blood sugar issues, and it works. But it's like, why are we only doing that when we're sick?
Yeah.
Right? Like, why aren't we like, we must be doing this? Like,
We must be
and then,
doing
like,
that.
if it's new to you or it's been a while or whatever, like, getting over the hump of, like, being exhausted from it and you actually get energy back from it. Like, my husband is cyclical with his running. He always is, like, pretty active, but, like, when it comes to, like, when he's training for a race or something, he'll do it, but then he'll fall off or whatever, and he's always has to get over that hump when he's has his cyclical moments, but he talks
Yeah.
about it, like, when he does 10 miles, he has to take a nap, but
Oh.
now it's only at 10 miles, like, when he does 7 or 8, he doesn't need his nap anymore. His little 30, 45-minute power nap, but once you get over that hump, you're starting
Uh-huh.
to gain, and you can see it in your tiny little actions, you just have to push through.
You have to push through, and you have to change the narrative that this is not optional,
The
this is
narrative,
mandatory.
yes.
This is mandatory. This is not optional. This is something your children and your children's children will thank you for, right? Because, I know you mentioned you talk a lot about longevity and like, what do we want our lives to look like? I know when
Mhm.
I'm 80, I want to be throwing my great grandchildren in the air. I want to be chasing after my great grandchildren like I am at 40, right? I want to be
Yeah.
still kayaking and paddleboarding. I don't want to have osteoporosis and have lost 3 inches and have joint issues everywhere, hip, knee, pains
Yeah.
that can often be consequences of these joints in our bodies carrying too much weight around, right? And not just
And
the
not
weight,
having
but
enough bone bearing or, weight
exact
bearing, right? Like, it's all
mobility.
osteoblasts instead of or B is blasts are building, clasts are breaking.
Plaster. Yes,
Yeah,
it's
so
more
we're having
osteoclast than blast.
control the ratio quite a bit. What do you do at the gym? Do you balance it? Have you
So
gotten
I
really into
balance it very much. I definitely, again, my body has changed a lot through the years, and especially with PCOS, learning what that looks like for me and what my goal is. So, because of the PCS, I have a little bit more testosterone, which means I can build muscle a little bit faster than the average woman. So, if I don't want to build too much upper body strength, I really have to be careful with the weight training. My family
Mhm.
said to me, they're like, "Wow, you look really jacked." And I'm like, "Okay, I have to change something because I'm not at the gym like lifting weights like this, to get bigger biceps." But
What's wrong with
um,
looking jacked? I told my
I
trainer I wanna get yoked.
I
The year of the getting yoked. I'll keep everyone posted when I look good.
Yeah, let's see how it goes. But yeah, I do. I rotate muscle groups and my body prefers I start every session off with 20 minutes of cardio at least, and then I will end it with 20 minutes of cardio. And I have some foot issues, so it makes running difficult. But like I
Mhm.
say to my patients, the data shows that really fast walking is just as great as running or jogging. And when I'm on the treadmill, I am being chased by a monster. You need to move like you're being chased by a monster. Heart rate is up. And then the middle of my sessions are generally filled with weight training, which I really do enjoy. And because of the polycystic, ovarian syndrome, my body needs both of those to
Right.
really meet my health and weight goals, right? So I will combine all of those things together, and every once in a while I change it up, but I really do enjoy my routine and I'm pretty diligent about it. And I will also change things up as I see knowing your body, being in your body. What does my body need? Right? Like,
Mhm.
is a key question. And the only way you learn that is by doing it, is
Yes,
by
that's what I
doing it
wanted to
through the
say,
years. Yeah.
is, like, how eloquently you can say or, like, you don't hesitate. You're like, "I know what my body likes. I know what my body
No,
responds to." Like, if you're hearing this and you don't know the answer to that, like, that's okay.
it is
If you have a few ideas and you're like, you can articulate what feels good and what doesn't, like, great.
okay.
But if you have no idea, like, make that a goal for yourself that you can
Right.
articulate what your body responds well to and be okay with seasonality. Like, I mean, cardio has its place, everyone's different, but I push
Right.
back on running all the time because
Yep.
I have so many adults who think running is like, if you don't run, you're not fit. And it's like, absolutely not. Like, first of all, sure, you can do whatever you set your mind to, but first of all, it's really hard on your body. And if
Overtime,
you
very hard
are
on your body.
carrying extra weight and you don't have decades of running under your belt,
Yep.
absolutely not. Like, let's actually be strategic here. Like, I actually push back on running quite often.
Yeah.
Um, for a lot of, especially for if you haven't done it, like, but people think that that's the gold standard and it's really, really not. So
They
I think it's
do.
so critical to figure out. And with YouTube, like, even if you're struggling with motivation, oh, the
Mhm.
other tip I have is if you don't know where to start, find a gym that has classes. YMCAs are
Absolutely.
really affordable for what they give you. Like $50,
Absolutely.
$60 a month for an individual. You have every class they offer. You have a pool, you have
Yep.
the gym, you have the track, you have everything. I love it. I'm a stan for YMCAs. They do so much for the community and they have classes. That's how I got into weightlifting. I did
Yeah, I love that.
classes
Yep.
and it taught me what I needed to know. And I educated myself with YouTube and then met a trainer. And I like have a lot of like friends and colleagues who do this who are like trusted sources. So that's lucky. But
Yeah.
even if you don't, you have YouTube.
I agree with that. And, the other thing is if you, like you mentioned, getting a trainer because there is this gym intimidation. Like, I don't know
Yes.
what to do on the equipment. I don't know what to do
It
when I
is
get there. What do I
intimidating.
do? Which I understand, because I've been there. And even now, if I wind up in a random town at a random Planet Fitness, I'm looking around like, where's the equipment that I
My
need?
machines aren't in the right order.
My machine's not in the right place. And I look like a little lost girl looking for the right machines, right? But it's also finding the things that you hate less, okay? So if you hate running, you don't have to run. You need to find the
Exactly.
things that you like the most and dislike the least, and
Mhm.
that looks different for everyone. So if
Yeah.
you hate the gym and that's not working, okay, what can we do to get you moving, get your heart rate up, and get you some weight-bearing exercise in,
Yeah.
okay? Doesn't have to be weight training. It can be using your own body as resistance. It can be Pilates. It can be chair yoga. It can be all of these other things that
Totally.
you might find more fun. And this is the last thing that I have, not the last thing I'll ever have to say about exercise, but for right now, it's something that we say at Room for Health is choose your heart.
Mhm.
Because let
Yes,
me tell
girl,
you, the
yes.
honest truth is when that alarm's going off at 5 o'clock, there are lots of days that I want to be like, boop, nope, not today. We are not doing that today. Okay. But I'm not on anything for high cholesterol. And I
Mhm.
would like to not be on anything for high cholesterol. My mother had a stroke at 53 years old from
Oh.
on borderline high blood pressure, and it paralyzed her on the left side of her body. She has been in, nursing home for years now, because it
Mm.
progressed so rapidly from there. But untreated high cholesterol, on borderline high blood pressure at 53 years old, the game life was over for her, and she knew it. So as hard as that is for me every day,
Yeah.
I don't want that other level of hard.
Yep.
So
Choose
you
your
have
heart or
to
have
choose your
yeah,
hard
I could not
with
agree
it.
more.
Yep.
Yeah. Love it. I love it. Well, thank you. You already answered, my question that I close every conversation with, which is what do you wanna be doing when you're 80 years old?
Oh, yeah, I wanna be throwing my maybe even my great-great-grandchildren
One
around
second, I'll be out in a sec.
in the air and teaching them how to kayak and paddleboard and having, like, my current grandson said, ventures. I wanna be having ventures with my great-great-grandchildren at 80 years
Yeah. Oh my god,
old. Yeah.
ventures. I love it. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I feel like I had other stuff to talk about, but there's only so much time, so you'll
That's
definitely have to
okay.
come back.
I would love that. Thank you so much for having me, and to anyone that joined, thank you for listening to us, and, I can't wait to see you on February 3rd at Wildwood.
Yes, I'm so excited. All right, well, thank you, and thanks everybody
Thank
for
you.
tuning in, and Christina, I will talk to you soon. Okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, can we